this option. I'd like to hand it over to Mike. He's going to talk about ferry operations and the intersection at Chappaquiddick and Dike Bridge. Thank you.
All right, as Dan just said, I'm going to talk about the ferry operations currently and Dike Bridge Road, Chappaquiddick Road, main intersection, which I guess you could call the major intersection of the island. For the ferry operations, objectively, operational concerns we go after. The first thing we see is contraflow traffic. Many of you are out there all the time. You know that when you're coming to queue, you're going to queue on the opposite side of the road. For a visitor that's never been there before, I wouldn't know how to do that. They wouldn't know how to do that. And that's something that stuck out like a sore thumb when we first came out. That's the first thing we noticed. They're queuing on the opposite side of the road. Why is that? Obviously, extended seasonal queues during the summer, when people are coming back to the main island of Martha's Vineyard, queues can get up to 40 or 50 cars, and that can really run off as they go on the opposite side of the roadway again. You can see that the grass has been run off right there. It's all dirt along the whole path, which is obviously not the most aesthetic feel. And then the parking facilities existing, there's 60 to 65 parking spaces at the ferry now, and if we were going to change anything, we'd like to keep that parking as is. We don't, obviously taking away parking is a very contentious issue as well. So obviously here's the overview. You have the contraflow queue. And you can see at the bottom here, they are beginning to pile up on the shoulder on the south side of the road. You have your cars, about 60 to 65, as I said. And you have 2 lanes of bike car traffic. And then in the parking lot, there's actually enough room for 2 vehicles to go at once, either direction. So with the right-of-way, at this point, it's 100 feet here. We'd like to, our part was to see if we could design something that was a little bit different. Maybe get the cars on the other side, so we'll look at that. As you can see, got the cars going all the way back, and then right here is the conflict of interest where, even though 3 cars coming off, it's an interesting turn for someone who's never been there before, and that's the objective part where someone's never been there. You got to live out there or travel out there a lot, not so bad. So here's a conceptual drawing that we have drawn up. We'd shift the queue lane to the top. There would be 2 queue lanes. This right now is showing 35 cars. It very rarely gets above 35 cars, sometimes it's 40 or 50. At that time, they could stack up on the right side of the road, and they would be normal. This wouldn't happen too much. 95% of the time, this would suffice. Cars leaving the ferry would come off. They'd be directed by signs to keep going to the right. There would be a guardrail there, or a wooden guardrail of some sort, something aesthetically pleasing for the area, where they would go out no problem. Cars coming in that would like to park would have that option. We'd have angled parking here. A 12-foot travel lane would suffice for most cars, or actually all cars that will be out there. And then the spots are long enough to have pickup trucks and all that type of light. They would come around, and this is 60 spots as well, so in terms of losing parking, we're all right with that. Now, as I said, you can see the red arrow here. With that, we're going to have cars at the most of there, where with the red arrow, I didn't show on this picture, but it goes a couple extra 100 feet down the road. So that is something that we really want to work on in the road. So with that, back to 2 queue lanes that hold 35 cars is great. And if I go back to this slide, we showed the bike path here, but this is something you can do without a bike path. If you don't have a mixed-use path, that's fine. This is still a great way to just have the operations be improved. Now, the Chappaquiddick Road, Dike Bridge intersection that we have kind of briefly touched on. The operational concerns, again, higher speeds. We were out there taking pictures. Yes, it's the winter. Yes, there might not be as many cars, but the cars that are coming, they can go at 40 miles per hour and nobody's stopping. We did notice that, and the only reason they brake was because they saw us standing on the road taking pictures. Otherwise, they're barreling around this corner, and that's pretty much it. Excessive pavement. As you can see in this photo, and I'll show in a little bit, there's a huge swath of pavement there that doesn't really need to be there. And then the impaired sight lines. You can see this curve here with the erosion the way it's been. The road has kind of been what we call super elevated, and there's a tree in the way, so the sight lines are not great. We'd like to improve that and see if we can reduce the speeds. Because as Adam said, I mean, just because something hasn't happened there yet, doesn't mean it can't. Here's the excessive pavement. Obviously, you can see the cars travel along this swath, this swath, and this swath. You have this whole little bit in the middle, over 2,000 square feet that, I mean, for an island that wants to be rural, you don't need to have that much pavement. So I'm going to present to you 2 ideas, both of which are a little bit different than you've probably seen. The first is what we call a roundabout. What you do is you not tee up, but have people coming in at a 90-degree angle or so they have to slow down, first of all. We have medians and islands, so there'd be more green field. This creates about 1,500 square feet of green space. And in the middle, what we would have is what we call a mountable apron. Obviously, there are delivery trucks and stuff that do come over and they have to make it. So this would be, for someone like a car, that would be uninvited. You wouldn't want to drive up on it. Versus for someone like a truck that makes that trip once or twice a day, they could go over it. It could be reinforced grass, it could be cobblestone, pavement. There's a lot of different options for that. And deflection vertically would make it so that a car, like someone like you or me driving a passenger vehicle, would not want to go around and would go maneuver around safely. Once again, like I mentioned with the ferry, the bike path, it has nothing to do with it. We showed it here because we were proposing that as well, but this could be done without it. Same exact thing. And then the more common design what we see is what we call teeing up an intersection. Creating this as a three-way stop, creating more green space here so that the turn radius is down. Cars go faster on turn because they have a larger turn radius. If you make the turn radius smaller, they have to slow down and make that turn at a slower speed. This creates about 2,000 square feet of additional green space that was not there before, so that's a really added bonus. And kind of like we said, bike path, crosswalk we just showed, but if there is anything, this is still a great way to slow down traffic and make it a safer intersection. So just a quick recap of recommendations. Based on our objective look so far, early on in our design, we are going with a multimodal facility separated from the bike path that pedestrians and cyclists can use. For the ferry, up to the ferry parking, I just showed you, putting 2 queue lanes, we're not adding any extra space, just using the space, reallocating it differently. And then Chappaquiddick Road, Dike Bridge Road, roundabout, or teeing up this intersection. Teeing up the intersection is very cheap, and it's safety, and it looks better. Now I'd just like to point out our email at the bottom. If you'd like our presentation from today, feel free to email us. We can get it to you. If you'd like to share your comments, concerns, we'd be thrilled to hear that as well. And now I'd like to open it up to some questions.